Hello, thank you everyone for being here. So as Ben mentioned, my name is Carolyn Spears and I'm a third year MFA student here at UW-Madison. And I'm excited to share a little bit of my work with you here today. I'm mostly going to be showing images from pretty recent work that's been made over the past 2 years or so that I've been in the program. And my work has taken quite a bit of a change since then, so I'll discuss some of this evolution and kind of the reasons behind it. But first, I'll start with a little bit of background. So I'm originally from Louisville, Kentucky. I almost just said it the wrong way. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, and I went to school at, who is representing in this room. This is where I got my BFA degree, and it's where I fell in love and learned glass making with Shay. Shout out to Shay. And I think like many people, as soon as I encountered glass, I just instantly fell in love with it. And one of the reasons for that is, of course, it's difficult to work with, but I think because of that, it really kind of commands my attention and asks me to be in the moment and really teaches this art of kind of close looking. So I became interested in using glass as a material to magnify the invisible or the overlooked. This piece is called Lens Study, and it really considers the power of this material to reveal the beauty and the complexity within life systems as well as the world around us. And I'm a person who's very much always been super inspired by nature, and I look to science to help shape my understanding of the world. And I think that glass is a super integral component of that, especially if we think about the use of the lens to see both the microscopic as well as deep into the cosmos. And I guess conceptually speaking, I've always had this through line or this interest in my work of thinking about impermanence and ephemerality. But at the same time, I was making work that was exclusively just in glass and making, in a lot of ways, like very permanent objects. So I started to question that, and I wanted to push my work conceptually to get at these ideas. And so when I got accepted into UW-Madison, I knew I wanted to use this opportunity to develop my work further. So I moved to Madison in 2021, and I immediately was really taken with the landscape. I think for one thing, I have only ever lived in Louisville, Kentucky my whole life, so it was kind of exciting to live in a new place. And much of the state of Wisconsin was formed through glaciation, like geologically, landscape speaking. And of course, because we're in the north, we experience these really cold and icy winters, and the local lakes will freeze over entirely here to where you can just like walk far out into the middle of the lake. And for me, that was my first experience with something like that. And it seems simple, but I think that it really stuck with me because I was observing these cycles of kind of freezing and thawing and really seeing the poetic potential of this material of ice. And the thought kind of struck me like, well, if I want to make work about impermanence, why not use more ephemeral and impermanent materials? And so I really quickly came to become obsessed with ice and started just really my first year here using that time to do a lot of material investigations with glass and ice, but then starting to fold new materials into the mix as well. So the image on the left is kind of an ice pack on the frozen Lake Mendota. And on the right, as you can see, I'm blowing glass directly into a snow pile that's right outside the glass lab here. So I became really interested in this kind of interfacing of these two materials. And you know, they seem really opposite in some ways, but I feel that they have a shared language or shared material properties. So this piece is called Impact. The photo on the left is a process photo. So what's happening is I'm ladling out hot glass and then pressing ice forms that I've made directly into it to create these sort of impressions and indentions in it. And I'm really interested in the dualities of these materials, and beyond just kind of the hot-cold obvious one, also the ability of these to be, of glass or ice, to be both solid and fluid, opaque or transparent, smooth or sharp, strong or weak. It just kind of goes on. And with this interaction in particular, I'm interested in the fleetingness of this exchange and having this indication of an absence of something. So I started to push this type of ice experimentation a bit further into some more two-dimensional works. And I'm thinking a lot about the kind of marks that are left behind through the passage of time. So these are cyanotypes that were created with melting ice. And so cyanotypes is just, for anyone not familiar, an alternative print process where a piece of paper is coated with a photosensitive solution, and when it sees the sunlight, it will develop into this deep blue color. And at the same time this is happening with this ice, it's capturing not only the sort of silhouette and the forms of it, but also the ice is actively melting, and so it's capturing sort of these like flow lines at the same time. And I'm interested in this gesture, like attempting to capture a moment or a process of a fleeting phenomena or event. And as I continued with making ice in experimental ways, I started working with video, which was really new for me, still is. And this is a recent piece that I made called Fear of Forgetting. And it's home videos from my childhood that are being projected onto a cracked and melting ice block. So with this work, I'm thinking a lot about the inevitability of loss and kind of the distortion of memory that happens over time as a result of loss. And with this piece, it just melts and disappears in the gallery over the course of about a week. And I think for me, this was kind of a breakthrough moment in realizing there was a video here, but I'm not sure if it'll play. Oh, maybe it'll play. Yeah. So, yeah, I think the thing about this piece is I kind of realized, like, oh, I can make a sculpture that is of itself impermanent. And that was kind of coming from this attunement to examining materials in a new way and what they can do. So this piece, along with others, were part of an exhibition that I did earlier this spring, was actually my MFA qualifier exhibition, and it was called Lost to Memory. And it was important for me because I guess it was the first body of work that I'd created that was multimedia and not just glass. And I'd gotten into sort of like a particular set of materials, which were glass and ice, video, light, and paper making. And I chose these because I feel like they all have this shared sense of fluidity and of transformation that can kind of allude to my interests in certain ways. And I'm interested in how they demonstrate transience. And this show really focused on ice as a metaphor for thinking about grief, kind of through its ability to fracture and to obfuscate, to record and to vanish. And this work is also me kind of contending with my own mortality just as a human, but through the lens of these phenomena and thinking about the larger environment. So one of the things that's been influential on my work lately is that I've been doing a little bit of research into glacial geology and even taking some classes here at UW. And it's been really eye-opening for me to have like a hard science attached to these notions of ice, because I think it's one thing for me to approach it and have my own like romanticized notions of what it means, but to ask the question, well, how does it operate in a larger world? So some of this research has inspired some pieces that I've been making. So this one is called Core Memory. On the left-hand side is a solid glass sculpture with encapsulated air bubbles, and it's directly referential to ice core samples that glaciologists will take. So they'll drill long segments into glacial ice, and they're looking for these air bubbles so that they can extract the atmosphere from within the bubbles and analyze it to paint a picture of what past climate was like and make predictions about future climate. So it's just a really powerful, for me, striking parallel between this shared material language of glass and ice to hold memory in this way, and also me kind of thinking about deep time in parallel with my interest in the fleeting. So this is another piece that I made that was inspired by some of this research, and that was also in my show, Lost to Memory. And it's called Breaking Apart. It's 5 sheets of handmade paper kind of laid out end to end that are installed on the floor. It's about 15 feet long. And this was made using experimental methods of working with paper. So I was freezing the pulp and then breaking it into many fragments. These fragments then float like in a large water bath, and the ice will melt out of them, but they kind of retain their shape. And so the compositions are being formed just by how these fragments drift, and really purely by chance. And I was looking at a lot of aerial images of glacial calving areas, which is where a glacier terminates in a body of water and produces icebergs. And I'm really just thinking about like the precarity of ice and just like the anxieties that go along with that, in thinking about climate change and in thinking about how the most visible effects of climate change are seen on glacial bodies. So I had the great fortune of being able to recently travel to Iceland, which was really exciting for me. And I spent 2 weeks there camping and traveling around. And the reason I went is after having done some of this research, is I really just wanted to experience these glacial phenomenon myself. And Iceland's cool because it's known as the land of fire and ice, because it's a volcanic island with active ice caps on it. So there's, again, this kind of interfacing of these two materials that I felt was really resonant with the work that I'd been making. And for me, this trip kind of became a pilgrimage of mourning and eulogizing these glaciers by seeing them firsthand and like bearing witness to their change and to this type of loss. So while I was there, I hiked up a mountain called Oak, and it's the site of a dead glacier. It's the first glacier in Iceland to be declared no longer active. And in 2019, it was commemorated with a plaque. And so I went up to the site, and it was kind of arduous to get to, but I guess it like really hit home for me. I was like, wow, like it's just so heavy to see this kind of like memorial and see the effects of climate change laid out so clearly before me. And so I wrote my own eulogy for Oak and recited it at the site of there's still ice on it, but it's no longer active. So this image is a still from a performance that I did reading this eulogy, and I'm currently, so while I was in Iceland, I did a lot of like documentation, and I'm currently working on editing that into a video project that will hopefully be in my thesis show in the spring, but it's kind of looking at ecological grief through this phenomena of glacial death. And there's still, I got back just a few weeks ago, so there's still a lot for me to like think about and process as I'm moving through this work, as it's a work in progress. So I'm looking forward to doing that in the coming months. And one last thing I'll do is a little plug for myself, a little shameless self-promotion. As part of this UW, or the Glass Madison, I have a 2-person show with another amazing artist named Felicia Leroy. It's here on campus at the Memorial Union, and it's open now through mid-November. So if you can, and if you're interested, go check it out. I'm out there on the internet if you want to find me or learn anything more. But otherwise, I just want to thank you all so much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the symposium. Is that a question?
So one thing I noticed when you're just so what? First of all, where you came from, Louisville.
Yeah, Louisville, not Louisville.
So obviously, it seems you have a big attraction to ice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, isn't it basically like blow glass and like bitter ice?
Kind of. Wait, is your question, am I blowing glass into?
Like ice, are you like you only like taking hot heat and then like basically putting it around like ice, you know?
Yeah, that's actually exactly what I'm doing for a lot of the work. So I guess one thing I should have mentioned is I bought a huge freezer and it's in my studio. So what I do is in the spring, I go and collect ice from the lakes because it breaks up into big fragments. So I'll take that ice, put it in my freezer, and then bring it into the hot glass studio. And I'll gather up glass and I'll roll over the ice, or I'll make, like actually this image is a rondelle that right after I spin it open, I'll stamp it onto this big block of ice. And so if I'm careful, it freezes it just enough so that it doesn't just shatter into pieces, but it leaves behind this really lovely texture and does amazing like optical things because of that. So yeah, I'm like quite literally colliding hot glass with ice directly. It's really fun. Any other questions? All right. Cool. Thank you all so much.